What's going on, everyone? So the Washington Wizards are making an attempt to go full rebuild and unloading guys. They already unloaded Bradley Beal. Another real option that many suitors and many teams may be looking at is Kristaps Porzingis, right? Still 27 years old. He stretches the floor. He's under contract. Well, he has a player option for $36 million. So he does have a very sizable contract. I do imagine he opts in and maybe works out some type of trade, because I just don't think at this point, I don't think the Wizards are going to want to keep him. I think the Wizards are going to want to unload him. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they kept him, just because he would only have one more year on his contract and then he'd be an unrestricted free agent. But at $36 million, I don't think a team is going to pay him that much. I don't see a team saying, oh, let's, give Kristaps Porzingis $37 million over 4 or 5 years, or anything like that. He still is got good size, good length, can stretch the floor. He's had a bit of injury issues over the course of his career, but he did play 65 games last year, started all 65 games, played 33 minutes, averaged 23 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, just under a steal, and 1.5 blocks. So you get the defense, get the floor stretching, 85% free throw shooter, which is massive, shoots 56% from the field in general, and then also his ability to stretch the floor at 38, almost 39% on 5.5 attempts per game. Massive, right? Still young, still talented, still gifted. The unicorn would be very valuable on many teams. And right now, there are reports and rumors that the Blazers are potentially looking to bring in a Kristaps Porzingis. They're also looking to kind of retool, rebuild. They're supposed to keep Jeremy Grant and bringing in a Kristaps Porzingis, especially if you can bring him in cheap. That's something that could work out. Problem is, Portland doesn't really have a bunch of salary to kind of stack up out without getting rid of like key pieces for them. So that's a little interesting. They could trade their center and kind of go that route, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But I think another real option would be the Los Angeles Lakers, right? He comes in, he could be your center. Anthony Davis doesn't really want to play center. He could also be the power forward if you want him to, however you want to approach it. Him and Anthony Davis would be a great front court. You add LeBron James in that regards as well. Gives you some height, gives you some size, gives you a guy that can rebound, block shots, defend, and also he was very efficient, very good. He had one of his best seasons last year that he's had in a while, and he held up, which is another big thing, right? Because that's always been kind of the question mark. The last few years before that, it's kind of been 50 games, which is a real concern, and would still be that concern going forward. But you wouldn't have. Like what would it cost? It's not going to cost you much, if anything. Because again, they're just trying to unload guys. They're just trying to, the Wizards are just trying to get rid of whatever they can. The problem would be getting to that, 36 million that you'd have to get to. That's where the problem lies. Because Malik Beasley, Mo Bamba, that isn't enough to get you there. That gets you to like 26 million. You could throw in like a Shaquille Harrison, yeah, but that only gets you to like 28 million. You'd have to work something out with D'Angelo Russell. So you basically would have to swap D'Lo, which at that point, they might as well just keep Kristaps Porzingis for another year, right? Because what you could do, so when you're doing a sign and trade, you have to give a 3 or 4 year contract, but only the first year has to be guaranteed. So what they could do is they could just give D'Lo the max for 1 year, swap D'Lo with Kristaps Porzingis, and then there you go. And you'd still have Malik Beasley and Mo Bamba that you could use to go trade and flip and go get something else. That could be a real option that the Lakers kind of look at for the year. And then once Kristaps Porzingis' contract is up, then you can look to re-sign him and maybe sign him for the long term on a cheaper deal. Because again, he is only 27 years old, and kind of have that front court, Kristaps Porzingis and Anthony Davis. But at that point, you would have to give some incentive, right? Because at that point, the Wizards would look at it as like, why would we want to swap those two when we still have to keep the salary on the books for the year? Now, maybe nobody else, maybe they can't really find a trade or a deal for Kristaps Porzingis, because again, the $36 million It's quite a hefty amount, right? Not many teams that can meet that, give expiring contracts on top of that, and not many teams that look at it and go, oh man, Kristaps Porzingis is the missing piece. Like, that's the guy we need that we don't have that's going to put us over the top. How many teams are looking at it like that? Even the Lakers, I don't think Kristaps Porzingis puts the Lakers necessarily over the top, but I think it's really close. I think it puts you in the right direction. I just think you need a couple more pieces, and the Lakers would be right there. I think they're hoisting the trophy at the end of the season. So it's getting to that $36 million that would be tricky. So then at that point, you're very likely going to have to give up a pick. Maybe you could just give up the 17th pick. That would be fine, I guess. Like, would you give up the 17th pick for Kristaps Porzingis? I think it'd be kind of hard to say no to, right? So you could say, hey, we'll give you the 17th pick, get Kristaps Porzingis. Maybe you could even go and make like a full trade, right? Could you trade D'Lo and Mo Bamba plus the 17th pick and maybe take on Gafford as well? And then now you got your center rotation locked up beautifully, right? Now you got a 24-year-old center that can play alongside both Kristaps Porzingis and Anthony Davis. And on top of that, he's 24 years old and he's locked up for the next 3 years. So that gives you some flexibility there, and he's on a reasonable contract at $12.5 million a year. So he's another contract that becomes tradable later on down the line. At that point, maybe you could do something like that because, again, you would be at that point helping the Wizards unload more salary. We're going to take, yes, you're going to swap D'Lo. So you're going to have to take D'Lo and you're going to have to pay D'Lo for a year, but we're going to give you the 17th pick and we're going to take Daniel Gafford's 3 years off the books for you. And that way, so that money's clear. So you just cleared another, $36 million, I think, is what he's owed over the next 3 years. So maybe at that point, maybe there's some incentive, and you would still have Malik Beasley. That maybe you could take Malik Beasley and you could take the 2029 pick and maybe go get something, right? Because you could take Malik Beasley and you could take Shaquille Harrison still, who is on a non-guaranteed. Those two guys could get you to about a $20 million player. So maybe you could take those two and upgrade to, I don't know, a Buddy Hield or something like that. I don't know. I like the idea. I think it's something that would make a lot of sense for the Lakers. You're adding another 23-point-a-game guy who's only under contract for 1 more year, so it doesn't really kill you, right? It's not something that, like, if it works, great. You're re-signing him to a new contract long term. If it doesn't work, no big deal. The money falls off the books. You go and you look to reposition and maybe get some new guys in the offseason, especially with LeBron James. His money could fall off. All of a sudden, you could be looking at, $80 million of money and salary, or almost $90 million falling off the books. Now, granted, they wouldn't have that much in cap space, but they should have enough, especially if you could retool LeBron's contract, should have enough to maybe round out the roster again, maybe go get another star or something like that. That could be an option. Or if LeBron leaves, well, then now you could definitely go look for another star. I like the idea. I think it's something that would give the Lakers some flexibility. The injury history is a bit of a concern, but if he could hold up like he did last year, then I think he has a world of value. I think he's a guy that makes a lot of sense for the Lakers. Lakers have been looking for that big, that stretch big, that two-way big. Kristaps Porzingis, I think, is one of those guys. A guy that can block some shots, play some defense. 7'3", so he's got some good size. Anthony Davis can move to the 4 at that point. You could always have him or AD on the court at all times. I do. I like it. You could also even run Kristaps at the 4 at times, right? Again, if you could get a Gafford, right, you could have Gafford and then move Porzingis to the 4, and now you still have that Twin Towers. Like, I really like the idea of like a Gafford, Porzingis, AD, like, 3-man front court. I think that would be great. And then also, you have Rui Hachimura that could play the 4. You have LeBron James. All those two guys both add some value there. I don't know. I like the idea, but how do you feel about it? Do you love it? Hate it? That being said, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Would you want to get Kristaps Porzingis? Would you want to get Kristaps Porzingis and Daniel Gafford? Because again, I really love the idea of like that front court. I think that front court adds a lot of versatility, a lot of functionality, gives you some nice just rotation there. Nobody has to play heavy minutes over the course of the season. And then once you get to the playoffs, you got multiple bodies that you could throw at somebody like Jokic, which would be massive. You could throw Porzingis, you could throw Gafford, you could throw Anthony Davis. You could even throw Rui Hachimura, which we saw had some success there. So it just gives you all these able bodies. And now you got those three guys kind of rotating it at center and power forward. And then you have Rui Hachimura kind of floating at the 3 and the 4. Jared Vanderbilt play the 3 and the 4 at times. LeBron James, same thing, 3 and the 4. You basically have your whole front court wrapped up. So now you're just looking for the guard position. But yeah, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments.